Hello everyone, welcome to Cradix Tech. This is Shubham, and today we are looking at the battery life of the biggest brands out there. That's the Samsung Galaxy S25, the iPhone 16 Pro, and the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And mind you, I don't have the 16 Pro Max with me, but we have to work with what we got, right? So we are doing the 16 Pro instead of the Pro Max. And I will also be throwing the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra just to see how it aged over the time. So let's start this video, shall we? We are going to keep it as fair as possible, so we will be replicating the everyday scenario over here. Alright, go the cat. So all the phones over here have the data, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth turned on. Because I have it turned on, always on my phone. Where we use our phones like normal, just like mainly social media, maps, gaming and recording. Apps are closed before starting. All the phones are set to max brightness and also 120Hz. So let's kick in the battery test and start with Instagram. Testing for 1 hour, and let's fast forward and check the results for this one. Mind you that I have kept the volume to the minimum as for the volume difference between all the phones. The iPhone is sitting at 97%, Pixel at 90%, S24 Ultra is 92% and S25 at 94%. The iPhone is way ahead of all. Apple usually shows more battery till 90%. After half an hour of Facebook watching videos back to back, iPhone came down to 92%, Pixel at 86%, S24 at 88% and S25 at 92%. Your iPhone is still ahead, followed by the Samsungs and then the Pixel. Pixel is actually performing the worst here, despite it having the largest battery capacity at 5060 mAh. Google has to improve their optimization with this one, as despite the larger battery, it is performing the worst. Hopefully the Tensor G5 brings in some improvements over the Tensor G4. Let's start with the usual video playback for YouTube, as my consumption for the day is on the higher side. We are doing 1 hour of YouTube here, and I'm just playing my videos. While checking the temperatures, all the phones are sitting at normal temperatures except the S24, which is at 35 degrees. And the battery for iPhone is at 85, 75 for Pixel, so a 10% drop for battery on Pixel, even while comparing with the smaller iPhone 16. S24 is at 80% and S25 at 84%, as even the Samsung consumed more battery than iPhone. Now let's start doing the 3D benchmark test. Let's run an unlimited test which is on loop. iPhone accidentally didn't do the unlimited form and instead just did a single loop. So starting the test again, and again it happens the same. Not sure what's going on with iPhone, as it's finished the loop faster and just sitting idle for a few minutes. So after 40 minutes of 3D bench, the iPhone is sitting at 80% with temperatures of 39 degrees, 59% for Pixel, which has the temperature of 49, which is the highest in the list so far. Next is the S24 at 69%. with a temperature of 47 degrees, and S25 at 78% with around 42 degrees of temperature. Here the Pixel's temperature is going off the charts, and it actually discontinued the 3D bench test as well due to the higher temperature warning. We will be talking about the dip in battery for every phones at the end. After this, let's start with call on Google Duo, which is half an hour and this might be moderate intensive task on the phones, as I muted them all and only my Moto G stylus was on mic as it wasn't in the test. After about half an hour, the iPhone is sitting at 61%, 50% for Pixel, 54 for S24 and 63 for S25. All the phones were around 40 degrees, which is normal for all after a video call. But something to notice here is that the battery improvements from the S24 to the S25 are kicking in. And I'm not sure if it's due to the battery degradation over a year or maybe the software updates that's affecting the battery life on the S24. But we will go forward and have a look. Sorry about the focus issues here. The camera was out of focus for some reason. Let's start with 30 minutes of YouTube music playback at max volumes, mainly because of checking the temperatures. Let's fast forward this, and after that the iPhone was at 47% and doing amazing for this test, which shows how efficient the iPhones are with the software, and even after having so little battery cell, it's performing really great. Than all the other phones, it's keeping its ground. Pixel is at 40%, S24 is at 47%, and S25 at 53%, which is the top at the list. Now let's start with the Google Maps and some navigation. Doing it for 30 minutes as well, and let's fast forward this one. The battery on iPhone is at 44%, Pixel is at 34%, still 10% ahead of the iPhone, and is showing the screen time on this is at 5 hours into the test, and every phone is still going on. This wasn't a graphic heavy task, so the temperatures of all the phones are around the room temperature. Now let's start with camera test, and we are doing 4K at 60 FPS on all the cameras. And let's start the recording on all of them. Now the iPhone actually does 120 FPS on this one, but just to be fair on the Pixel, we are doing this as the Samsung can also do 120 on certain conditions. And if you want to see how to do it, check the shots that I have already done on this one. After that, the iPhone was at the coolest among all of these at 39 degrees, and the Pixel was the hottest at 44. S24 was also the hottest at 46 degrees, and S25 was at 42. So I would say the larger 40% improved vapor chamber does help the newer flagship, that's the S25. And the gap between the batteries for the Pixel and the iPhone is 11%, and S25 to S24 is also 11%. Now let's do some gaming, and I tried the Asphalt Unite, but because all the phone has the same ID installed in it, I wasn't able to play the game. I will be doing a similar test, and let's do Subway Surfers on all of these. As it's not an intensive game, I did it for an hour instead of half an hour that I was planning with the Asphalt Unite. And checking the temperatures after an hour, and all the phones are sitting at healthy temperatures at below 37 degrees, which isn't surprising. And now the iPhone is at 20%, Pixel is just at 8%, S24 at 16%, and S25 at 27%. So the S25 is leading the pack, but it is to be expected due to it being a newer phone. But surprisingly, the iPhone 16 Pro is having the best day of its life, as it is just a little bit behind the S25 and still having one of the best battery life out of all of these. Now let's do the camera test until one of it dies. And I think you already know who it is. And at 7 hours and 9 minutes, Pixel calls it a day. And just after 2 minutes, Samsung is done as well. And the S24 calls it a day at 7 hours and 11 minutes, just 2 minutes after the Pixel. And checking the temperatures, the Pixel was sitting at 38 degrees while the Samsung has gone up to 48 and then shuts down. And after 35 minutes of camera, iPhone is at 7% and S25 at 15%. So let's do a Subway Surfer for 20 more minutes. And after that test, an iPhone goes down to 3%, whereas Samsung is sitting at 11. Doing the camera till one of it dies. And after 7 hours and 56 minutes, the iPhone 16 Pro finally goes down. And Samsung is still sitting at 6%. So let's finish this with Subway Surfers. And after 45 minutes, Samsung finally dies at 8 hours and 34 minutes. So finishing up this test, and the first to die was the Pixel at 7 hours and 9 minutes, which is a respectable amount. But for the biggest battery in between these phones, it should have been the last one dying and was a disappointing result. The S24 Ultra was the next to go with 7 hours and 11 minutes, which is a good runner-up and shows that it has gone down in battery since the last year. As I said, it might be due to the battery degradation or the software updates affecting it. Next up is the iPhone 16 Pro with surprising results, as this is the iPhone's smaller model of the two, and still it outperformed both the Ultra phones from its competitors, standing at around 7 hours and 56 minutes, just 4 minutes shy of 8 hours and 45 more minutes than the S24 Ultra. Apple is the best in optimization, and should have been the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It would have lasted, I think, around 1 more hour in this test and would have been the winner, defeating the S25 Ultra as well. And finally, the last one to go was the S25 Ultra at 8 hours and 34 minutes, which is a respectable range for a battery and more than enough for anyone asking for Samsung not opting for the silicon carbon battery tech. Let's break down the battery now. I'm going to tell you the numbers as I can see them on the screen on. But to sum things up, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well as 3D Bench drained the Pixel like crazy. And it was the most consumption of the battery on a Pixel on all of these apps. S24 was a close second, but 1 to 2% ahead of the Pixel on all of these, while the iPhone and Samsung were just 1 to 2% apart from each other, which was great for both of them. Coming to the video calling on Zoom and YouTube Music, the tables turn, as the Pixel consumed less here, while the iPhone was the worst one, performing with over 4 to 5% above every phone, which was followed by the S24 and the S25, as you can see the charts below. Finally, the maps consumed double on Pixel and S24 compared to the 16 Pro and S25 Ultra. Cameras were just 1% apart from each other, consumed the lowest on Samsung S25 Ultra, whereas Subway Surfers did the lowest on iPhone, and similar on all other phones. So the graphic and the CPU heavy tasks like gaming and camera were handled pretty much well on all of these phones, and it does show that even the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chip does not overheat. It might be thanks to the heat chamber that is in the S25 Ultra. Again, with the cameras, the S24 Ultra struggled the most, and it should have been lasting longer despite it having more battery. Now the Pixel was the worst one here. I had checked the battery health and it was sitting at 98%, which shouldn't have affected much on the scores, But still, considering there was a lot of Google apps I tested, it should have at least performed better on all of these. And they do need to improve on their optimization game. Samsung, on the other hand, has definitely improved over these years, and it does show in the battery department, and also considering the temperatures shown above. It might be due to better heat dissipation due to a larger heat sink, as we discussed earlier. iPhone, despite having the smallest battery, performed the best, and it does show how well the optimization plays a big part in conserving battery. It was a surprising result, and kudos to Apple for making a small phone that lasts longer. I will leave the chart for the battery drain below in the description if you want to download it and have a look. But 7 hours is a long time, and it wasn't that long that phones gave up 4 to 5 hours of screen on time few years back. And considering these phones have at least 6 years of software update left, it's good to see these are lasting an entire day, and might go on to the second day as well. If you're wondering how I got these skins on my phone, stay tuned for that, and I will be giving out the details for that very soon. That's been it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.